Thank you, Jean-Christophe. We have 15 minutes left, and I said I'd get us all out on time. Before we start, has anyone got any questions? If so, please raise a hand. If not, don't worry, I've got a number. Did I see a hand up? Do I see a hand up? Okay, but please do put a hand up at any time. Maybe starting with a question for all three of you. One of the things which clearly comes out for me is the role of promotions, and I think yourself, Christina, and Arlene was talking about links with other products. Does that seem to be the future for you guys? Is that certainly one which you're going for, from a retail and a distribution point of view?
Yes, for sure. When Christina was talking about chocolate bars and water, it triggered me because I went, oh yeah, we do that too. We do combo promotions, mainly with newspapers in the past, where we have a daily newspaper called The Star. We did a program called A Star in a Bar. And we do water quite often as well as a combined purchase. And it does drive the numbers. Again, because the newspaper sales are down so significantly, we haven't done these in quite some time, but I've got a good idea to do it with magazines now. Thank you.
Well, at least that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to data at the end of the day with a lot of this kind of stuff. So with things like Nectar and dunnhumby, we can understand what other products our magazine buyers buy, which means that it's more appealing to them, more relevant to them, and we then use those learnings overseas to use other products. So definitely the future, I think.
Okay. It wasn't really specifically mentioned, but convenience. We talked, that was a theme which I made a note of, which was around making life easier for consumer shoppers to see, making it easier for people to shop. Is there more that the industry, whether from a retail or from a partnership perspective, can be doing to make things even more convenient for consumers while they're shopping in stores, do you think?
Well, the experience in our stores, it's very short. Very few of our stores, other than the large flagship stores that I referred to, which were the recent ones we purchased from LS Retail, most of them are not high dwell time. They are very short windows of time because, 70 stores in the train system, they're running to trains, so the dwell time is very short. So it really is important to get the highest moving products to the front of the store. So that's where we have our water. That's where we would have our newspapers even today. But unfortunately, like the magazines have more of a dwell time. So other than the weeklies and those that are on promotion, we mainly have them farther into the store because the magazine purchase requires more of a dwell time. So unfortunately, that doesn't work well for the magazine category other than promoted magazines at the front or our weeklies.
Is there going to be a way of making, or maybe you already offer it, because people tend to rush for a certain train because it's the commute which they're normally on. Are consumers paying by cash or debit or credit card, or is there a kind of a fast pay option or a loyalty?
Well, maybe in some of our stores they're going to be using those bitcoins. I don't know. I don't understand that, but apparently they might be. We don't use, it's mainly cash. Our stores are mainly cash purchases, especially in the train system. The only stores that I've seen a lot of use of credit and debit cards would be in the flagship stores where, like the guy that came with the $100 worth of World Cup magazines, I know he had a Visa out. So mainly it's the fast purchase. A lot of them just throw their money down on the counter as they run to catch a train. So it's fast. It's a fast-paced environment.
Jean-Christophe, how does it work in some of your outlets?
Yeah, of course, in terms of convenience for the final customer, of course, when we design our stores, we very much try to think in terms of speed. In travel retail locations, the average duration of the stay of the final customer is between 30 to 40 seconds. So, of course, we need to think everything, okay, my bottle of Pepsi, my croissant, maybe my daily newspaper, and then I'm gone and take my train. So I think in terms of payment, mobile payment is something which will come, especially for small market basket, which we have in this industry, will definitely come.
Okay. Arlene, you talked about compliance because you are not a corporate estate, you are essentially a franchise estate, and you said you know, your compliance probably could be slightly higher than it is now. Do you have a view that your compliance levels are lower than what you would get in corporates? Because quite often, in my experience, you find in franchise businesses actually true on-shelf compliance can be better.
Well, I got to tell you, my biggest fear when I moved from the corporate world of LS Travel almost 15 years ago to this small franchise operation, I went, oh my God, we'll never deliver compliance in this world. And I was frightened. I was actually daunted by the task of having to deliver compliance because I thought, why would these guys do what I'm telling them to do every month? Do they care? Well, the bottom line, as I said, in the success of our program is when you share the revenue with your franchisees, they become a partner with you. And we do have guys or franchisees that fail to comply. And when they're written up once and they lose 1 month's revenue, and they don't just lose the revenue for the one title that they didn't comply with, they lose 1 month of their full entitlement. So that will be Coca-Cola money, it'll be Metro Free Daily money. So this guy, for not putting that magazine in one pocket, could be losing $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 or $10,000. So they only do that once. And if they continue to not comply, they can lose their franchise. It's in our franchise agreement. So I learned pretty quickly after moving from a corporate world where they had to comply or lose their jobs, I guess. I mean, it's pretty serious at LS as well. But these guys will lose their investment. They will lose their livelihood. So I was turned around pretty quick that it can work.
I thought a great session.
Shout it.
It's okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great session. Thank you very much. What we heard from Jim Bilton earlier was there's two things going on. There's reduction in the whole sort of retail universe of shops that are selling press, but also within those shops, there's the reduction. But what I'm hearing today from you guys, anyway, from your experiences, you're still carrying press in nearly all of your branches. It's just that it's a smaller proportion, which is actually a much healthier situation than if you were saying, well, actually, then now 40% of our retail outlets are not selling press anymore.
Yeah. Well, and also, I think Christina's, in fact, her opening slide or two was around kind of the shift from from small format stores to supermarkets. Well, the interesting thing is, in virtually globally around the world, supermarkets are getting into small format stores. So the irony of that is perfect. And actually, the expertise which this industry has in working with small format retailers could actually be very useful for supermarket chains who are, by their own admission, well, by their own actions, going into small format retail, by their own admission, still getting their head around it. The pressure for space is a recurring theme all through. Is that, for fear of getting, I don't want to get too controversial, is that too wide a range within within a set fixture?
Saying too many titles?
Yeah,
or,
almost like SKU camp.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that is a challenge. However, I think it was in your presentation we were talking about that a lot of magazines are highly personal. So I think the ranging is just the critical point. Yes, you can only clearly hold a certain amount of titles, but if you really understand your shopper and manage the category effectively, I think it doesn't matter that there's 3,000-4,000 magazines out there because you're stocking the correct ones.
May I ask you the white elephant question sitting in the room that nobody dares ask? Like, every example you showed us, you do a promotion, you have a sales lift. Who should bear the cost of those promotions? Is it only the publisher? Is it the wholesaler? Is it the retailer? Or is it just a one-way street?
That is a white elephant.
Can I take this?
Yeah,
You
please do,
can,
Jean-Christophe.
absolutely.
Well, the way we see it, we carry 3,000 items in our stores, and in terms of promotion, publishers are competing with big pocket companies like tobacco companies or confectionery companies. So, of course, the way we see it is a battle for each square centimeter in terms of assortment. And it's also a battle for each advertising tool or promotional tool in the store. So it's hard for a retailer not to think in terms of investment from the publisher or from other suppliers.
Well, it's our belief as well that the cost really should be more, the person who's going to benefit the most from that is, in our view, the publisher. It's their product. Coca-Cola doesn't ask somebody else to pay for their promotion. So it really does come from where the product originates from, and that, in our view, would be the publisher. But I think the key to promotion is, I say this often when I talk to publishers, is, look, you're buying a little bit of time. You're buying the TLC that goes into stick handling that product through the store. And if you don't pay something, I can't dedicate my time to give that product the attention that you're asking me to give it. I get publishers that phone me and say, can you just, approve a distribution expansion? And I kind of wince and I go, well, okay, but what's in it for me? Well, potentially I will sell more product if I expand the dealer count and everything else. But I'm also flooding my stores with product that they may not want. So if I actually put it on my planner and put it in a pocket, I know that I can deliver. The key to the whole thing for me is being flexible with your pricing. And I can say that I have extremely fair and reasonable rates where it doesn't cost you a $100 bill to promote a magazine inside the magazine. You know what I'm saying? If it's thousands and thousands of dollars, you won't get the return on that investment. So if we can do very reasonable programs, and that to me is worth the value.
I think one of the most fascinating things is almost like a small comment by Christina when she said consumers don't know how much the price of a magazine. By and large, they don't know the price of anything, even though they say they do, without being too generalistic. And if we're in a completely different conference, if we were in a food retail conference now, particularly in mainland Europe, we'd be talking about the role of price mark packs, where all of a sudden we're putting the price of items, supplier recommended price on items, to increase the appeal of them because the perception is that they're getting a very good deal. So, coming onto that point, and I think you talked about, you got 25% sales uplifts, Christina, from a 10% reduction. That would let us possibly suggest, in certain categories, that actually it's more the treatment that the product gets rather than necessarily the actual per unit price. So, I think you were talking about dress it up, promote it, get it in a secondary location or end of gondola, or whatever. If we're talking FMCG, that's what certainly would work.
Yeah.
Are there lessons for us to learn in this industry?
Yeah, and I think the display ones that I showed are probably the most telling on that front, because there is no offer at all. It literally is just theatre in store. And the Best of British Week, we've run it for 3 years now, and it's now in 14 countries. It started off in 7 because it's working, and it's working really well. So I do think that most people want to be sold to, and if you dress something up, then it just makes them feel like they are treating themselves for a reason. Clearly, it depends on the sector, and there are some sectors that absolutely have to cut price. But I don't think there is obviously the danger of getting a consumer too used to too cheap a price, and that's something we have to stay away from if we can.
Okay.
And with that, we have to bring the panel to an end. We're out of time. Tom and the panelists, thank you very much for the wonderful panel.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I would have given it to